my name is Addie and this is the Knits by AJ Knitting Podcast, and this is episode 51. I am just going to apologise straight away for the fact that my voice is quite nasally today. I said last week that I was coming down with a bit of a cold. It's been sort of getting progressively worse across the week, and I now seem to be kind of like coming out the other end of it, but my voice is just very nasally, so apologies if that bothers you. There's not really anything I can do about it at this point. But yes, other than fighting off a cold, I have managed to get a fair bit of work done on all of my whips this week. So I'm very excited to talk through them for you guys. So grab yourselves a cup of tea, grab your knitting, crochet, whatever craft you're working on, and let's get into some knitting. So I'll start off with what I'm wearing. This is my self-drafted cabled cardigan that I showed last week. I think it was still damp and it didn't have buttons. Now obviously it does, and it just looks like this. If I scoot up a bit. So I knit this up out of Gepard Woolia in the colour Olive, and I just grabbed these wooden buttons from my local haberdashery. I'm not massively keen on them, but to be honest they will do for now. And yeah, I think they're just a little bit orange, to be honest. I was looking for something that was a little bit less sort of orange, a little bit more kind of natural wood, but to be honest these will do for now. I'm not like massively offended by them, so yeah, I think they're kind of growing on me now. But this is what it looks like in its full glory. I absolutely love it. It's a little bit cropped. Obviously if you want to knit yours longer then you can, and yeah, this is what we are looking like for now. I'm so much happier with how the sleeves are looking. I think adding that little bit extra ease in there has just made the armhole sit so much nicer, and you can't really tell that there's that much more ease in there, but it just fits on the arm a bit better. It's not pulling anywhere. And so yes, that is what that is looking like. I am slowly working my way through the pattern to hopefully get it out for testing through the spring summer, to hopefully have it out for you guys to knit in the autumn winter. So yes, that is what I'm wearing, and let's get into some whips. Okay, so the first whip that I have to talk about today is my Effervescent Mini. This is a pattern by SHER, and I am using Woolly Knit Super Soft Merino 4-ply in the colour Rose. And like I said a couple of weeks ago, I think this is a discontinued yarn, but I am just trying to work through some of my stash at the moment. So yeah, I'm trying to get it kind of out of my stash, ready for more things to come into my stash at some point. So I did not mention this last week because I didn't work on it, but this week I have worked on it a lot. So it is a bottom-up construction, so it looks a little bit crazy on the needles at the moment. So I've finished the stockinette for the body. Where's my marker? There it is. So yes, this is where I was a couple of weeks ago when I last showed this, where this little gummy bear is, and all of my ends are stuck to everything. So apologies for that. But yes, this is where I was a couple of weeks ago, and so since then I have finished up the stockinette for the body, and I have knit both of the sleeves. Now because this is bottom up, the sleeves are not connected to anything whilst I'm knitting them, which actually is quite nice, but they kind of took the place of any of my sock knitting, and so because they are just essentially a stockinette tube with a couple of increases in there, they were really easygoing knitting. And yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed knitting these sleeves. Well, actually no, I thoroughly enjoyed knitting the first one. The second one did feel like a little bit of a slog because you knit the body first, and I should have thought about this before I started it and started with one of the sleeves. But yeah, because you knit the body first, you then are left with both of the sleeves to knit before you can get into doing anything else. So I knit the first sleeve, and usually what I would do with a top-down jumper is I would get into the body, knit a little bit of that, knit one of the sleeves, knit some more body, and then knit the other sleeve to stop me sort of being stuck on sleeve or body island, to break it up a little bit and keep me kind of engaged throughout. But obviously I couldn't do that because I had already finished the body and I had to knit the sleeves before I could get into the lace yoke. So yeah, the second one did feel like a little bit of a slog, but it wasn't too bad, to be honest. I knit them both magic loop because I don't have short circulars in a 3.25 or a 3mm. It's something I might want to look into in the future. I think I would have maybe enjoyed them slightly more if I could have just whizzed up them on small circulars, but I wasn't about to go out and spend £100 plus on shorty needles, like a shorty set. to just get these needle sizes. So yeah, knit the magic loop. It was perfectly fine. Quite enjoyable for the first one, to be honest, because the increases are sort of quite well spread out. Like there's quite a few rounds between the increases, so you can kind of switch off for a little bit before you then have to concentrate on doing another increase. But yes, both of the sleeves are done and I have connected them. It was a little bit uncomfortable the first couple of rounds after I had connected the sleeves, because the way the stitches were, obviously when you were knitting the sleeve, it kind of wants to come round like this, and then you just take out this like last bit for the underarm. And so when it was on the needle, it kind of wanted to curve around and then go back out for the body. So when you actually had those stitches where it was kind of trying to curve in for the sleeve and then back out for the body on the needle, before they kind of like fell into place to go back up for the rest of the yoke, they kind of just, they didn't want to sort of glide along the needle very well. It was a little bit uncomfortable. But it was only for the first sort of like, I'd say 4 rounds after joining the sleeves that it was like that. Now they've kind of settled in a little bit more, and are kind of sort of worked their way into a proper sort of round, if that makes sense. But that hopefully means that it will kind of fit under the underarm nicely. It was just a little bit uncomfortable to knit. So I am now working my way up the lace yoke, and I am about to do my first decrease in the yoke, which to be honest I'm also very much looking forward to, because it feels like there are a lot of stitches on here at the moment. The underarm stitches you leave on hold on some tubing or like a stitch holder or something, because you then Kitchener them together at the end, which I'm very much looking forward to, because I like to be able to use my ends from my Kitchener stitch to close up any holes at the underarm, because it doesn't matter what I do, I always end up with holes at the underarm, and I have to like sew them shut, apart from on things like drop shoulders. It's only like, yeah, raglans and round yokes always end up with holes, so I have to weave my ends in to close up those holes. So it's nice to have an end at each end instead of having to like go backwards and forwards like you do with a top down jumper when you only have one end at the sleeves. But yes, just going to be working my way up the lace yoke now. I think this yarn is absolutely beautiful for this lace. It's really quite a round sort of bouncy merino, and it's not particularly fluffy at all. So you get some really good stitch definition in there for that lace yoke. Like you can really see the eyelets and where all of the like knit two togethers and SSKs are moving those stitches around. It's just giving it a really beautiful look, really striking, and I think it's going to look absolutely stunning once it's finished. And yeah, hopefully my little girl will absolutely love it. But yeah, I think the pattern is really, really well written. There's even a note in there to say to add like stitch markers to each of the lace repeats, so you can tell where they are in the pattern when you're knitting them, because sometimes it can be a little bit hard to kind of define where you are in the repeat, especially if you stop mid-round. I think that's a really good note to put in, especially when you are knitting lace, because of all the yarn overs and everything, your stitch count is often changing. So yeah, I really, really like that, and I have found it very, very helpful. And like there's even little notes in there to just like double check what size you're knitting, because like obviously there are ages and there are sizes, so sometimes it can get a little bit confusing. Like for age 5 that I'm knitting is actually size 4, and so I find it really helpful that there are little notes in there just to kind of remind you, even if you can remember like, and you know, sometimes it's just nice to have a little check-in from the designer. And so yeah, I think this is a really lovely, well-written pattern. But yeah, just going to be working up the rest of the yoke this week, and hopefully have this ready for my little girl to be able to wear. I would love to be able to have it ready for her to wear for Valentine's Day. I think it would be a really lovely little thing. Not that we really celebrate Valentine's Day, but like her school talk about it and things like that. So it'd be nice for her to have a nice little pink jumper to wear for Valentine's Day. But I do still obviously have to finish that yoke, do short rows and neck ribbing, and do a full ruffle. So I'm not sure that that would actually be achievable, but you know, one can dream. So yes, I cast this on January the 14th, and so it's currently been on my needles for 23 days. Okay, so that was whip number 1. Whip number 2 is my husband's vanilla socks. I am knitting these up out of Cascade Heritage in the colour Moss, and Gusto Wool Echoes in the colour 1511, I think it is. And last week I was here, where my little spaceman is, and I really haven't done very much on these because I was knitting those sleeves for the Effervescent Mini and they were just essentially stockinette tubes. They kind of took the place of my sock knitting this week, and so these just didn't get picked up very much. So I have finished the black stripe that I had started last week, and I am about 2 rounds from the end of this green stripe. So yeah, I've done about 18 rounds. I have changed my row count for the black stripes now, and I've decided to take off 2 stripes each time I do a stripe. So I started off with 10, and then this one is 8, and then the next one I do will be 6, and so on. So that, like I said last week, it won't show that I have been running out of yarn, because I have now only got this much yarn left of this half of my Gusto wool skeins, because I used them before in a previous project. So this is the one that I have for the second sock, and then obviously this is all I have left for the first sock. So because of that, I am gonna sort of strategically phase out the stripes and just make them smaller as it goes down the foot. And I think it'll look quite intentional. I think it'll look nice. It'll give them a little bit more interest than just the standard striped sock. So yeah, that is what I'm going to be doing with those. So I've got 2 rounds left of this green stripe before I then do another black one, and I'm just going to be working down the foot of these now. Now that everything else that I have on my needles is a little bit more involved, this will be my kind of easy breezy knitting for this week. So hopefully I can get through sock 1 and get sock 2 going. But yeah, not that much work on them, but to be honest, I'm okay with that. Socks 2 take time. But yes, that is where I am with those. And I cast these on January the 25th, and they have currently been on my needles for 12 days. So yeah, those are my husband's socks this week. So that brings me to my last whip, which is also a new cast on this week. And this is the Irene Slipover by Journey Through Yarn. And I am using a mystery yarn that I got from No Frills Knitting last year. Now, all I know about this yarn is that it's a natural fibre and that it's fingering weight, and that you get about 360 meters per 100 grams, and I have 500 grams of this. So yeah, I'm not sure what this yarn is. They're not selling it anymore, but I wanted to, like I say, get through some of my stash, and so I am using it up for this slipover. So I'm knitting up size 1, and this is actually the last pattern that I had on my autumn knitting plans that I hadn't started yet. So I'm very excited for the fact that I've managed to kind of get through most of the things on that set of plans, and I'll be talking a little bit more about that when I do my spring knitting plans video, which will probably be some point at the end of March. No, at the end of this month? Yeah, we'll probably be at some point at the end of this month, or early March. So I was going to use this yarn to knit up a thin skirt by Wool and Beyond, but I picked it up and was going to do my swatch for the thin skirt, and then I kind of felt the yarn, and there's just no elasticity in it whatsoever. Like it's very strong, but it's just completely solid. Like there's no bounce in it whatsoever. And so I thought that's probably not going to be the best choice for a skirt, which it's probably going to need to stretch in various places and everything. And so I thought actually probably be better to use this for a slipover. I'm pretty sure that it's not an animal fibre, or not at least not a high percentage of an animal fibre. It doesn't smell at all woolly. I think it's got a linen base in there somewhere, but I'm not 100% sure. But I thought that it would work quite well for a slipover, because then it can be something that if it's a little bit scratchy or a little bit uncomfortable next to skin, then I can just chuck something else underneath it and it's not going to bother me too much. And also, if it's a summer fibre, then it's something that I can wear as a bit of like a summer top as well as a layering piece. But anyway, this is where I am with my Irene Slipover. So I'm holding the yarn double to get a DK for this pattern as it's a fingering weight, and I have had to go down a needle size to get gauged, so I'm working on a 3.75mm needle, but I had to do the same for my West Sands pullover as well, so I think I just knit a little bit looser than Rebecca, but that's fine. So this is where I am. It's really hard to show because obviously it's black, but I have worked the short rows at the back neck, and I have done 1.5 pattern repeats for the back piece, and I think I've got to do 2 pattern repeats for the full length that I need before I can start doing the underarm shaping. But I'm really enjoying this pattern. It knits up so quickly, and I think that's because it's like that perfect balance between texture and stockinette. You get a bit of a break to really quickly fly through some stockinette, and then you get the interest of the texture. So my next round is going to be another row of these dip stitches, which I thought was so much fun to knit. A little bit fiddly to kind of get your head round. I did go wrong in my swatch and accidentally sort of offset them by 1 stitch. But I'm glad that I did knit my swatch so that I could practice to be able to then get them right in the final pattern. But yeah, I think this is going to be such a versatile piece in my wardrobe. I'm really looking forward to having it. Like I say, because I think it's a bit more of a summer fibre than a winter fibre, I think it's going to be really nice to just chuck on, like either on its own or just over a vest with a pair of jeans or shorts in the sort of like spring summer, as well as being able to layer it in my wardrobe, because I think that's the thing with slipovers. I very rarely want something that only covers my body because my arms get quite cold, whereas I think if I have a summer fibre one or like something that's like a cotton and wool blend, it's going to be more versatile in my wardrobe to be able to be worn when it's a little bit warmer without it being itchy. The only other slipover that I've got is a Ingrid slipover, but I use mohair in that, so I cannot wear it without anything underneath it because I just find mohair a little bit uncomfortable to wear, especially if I get hot. So yes, I'm very much looking forward to having this one in my wardrobe. I think that the black is going to go with so many things. I think the texture is just subtle enough that it doesn't make it like sort of tricky to style with different things. And yeah, I'm just very much looking forward to having this. Again, like with the West Sands, it's really well written. Rebecca's writing style is so clear and concise. I love that she has both charted and written out the instructions for this so that you can kind of flip between the two, whatever you find easiest. And yeah, I'm just very much looking forward to getting into this. It's such an addictive knit. I absolutely love knitting it. I worked up all of this in one evening, so that kind of just shows how quickly it knits up and how engaging it is to knit. And so I cast this on yesterday on February the 4th, and so it has currently been on my needles for 1 day, and so I'm very happy with my progress for 1 day. And I'm very much looking forward to getting back to knitting it a little bit more as well. So that is everything that I have been working on this week. I would love to know, like always, what you guys are working on, how you are progressing through all of your whips. Have you started planning for spring yet? Or if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, have you started planning for autumn? I would love to know kind of like what patterns you're thinking of for the coming season. But yes, I hope you all have a wonderful week, and I will catch up with you all next week with some more knitting. Happy making!